Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Zulqarnain, Gog and Magog and the Great Wall of Zulqarnain in Christian history. So let's start. The story of Zulqarnain, often identified with Alexander the Great, and Gog and Magog appears in Islamic literature, specifically in the Quran, Surah Al-Kahf. However, it is not a part of Christian scripture. In Christian history, the narrative of Alexander the Great is not directly associated with Gog and Magog as it is in Islamic tradition. Instead, in Christian eschatology, the study of end times, Gog and Magog are typically mentioned in the book of Revelation, where they are portrayed as forces of evil that will be defeated by divine intervention during the final battle. These references are part of apocalyptic literature and are interpreted in various ways within Christian theology. In Christian scripture, specifically in the Bible, there is no direct mention of Zulqarnain or the story of Gog and Magog as described in Islamic literature, such as the Quran. However, there are passages in the Bible that are sometimes interpreted as having similarities or parallels to these narratives. For example, in the book of Revelation in the New Testament, there is a mention of Gog and Magog in Revelation 20:7-10. When the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from prison and shall go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, and gather them for battle. In number, they are like the sand on the seashore. They marched across the breadth of the earth, and surrounded the camp of God's people, the city he loves. But fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil, who deceived them, was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever. This passage is part of an apocalyptic vision, and is interpreted in various ways within Christian eschatology, often symbolically rather than literally. Some scholars and theologians have suggested connections between this passage and similar apocalyptic themes found in other religious traditions, including Islamic literature. However, it's essential to note that while there may be parallels or similarities between narratives in different religious traditions, the specific details and interpretations can vary significantly between them. In Christian scripture, there isn't a figure directly equivalent to Zulqarnain as described in Islamic literature. However, some scholars have proposed potential parallels or connections between Zulqarnain and certain figures or stories in the Christian tradition, though these are speculative and not universally accepted. One interpretation posits that Zulqarnain shares similarities with historical figures like Alexander the Great, who is known for his vast conquests and travels. Some scholars suggest that certain aspects of Alexander's life and accomplishments could be loosely associated with elements of the Zulqarnain story, such as his journeys to the ends of the earth or his role as a ruler who establishes justice and righteousness. Another possible connection lies in the broader themes of righteous rulership and the pursuit of justice, which are central to both the Zulqarnain narrative in the Quran and various figures and stories in Christian tradition. For example, biblical figures like King Solomon are celebrated for their wisdom and just governance, which could be seen as parallels to Zulqarnain's role as a righteous ruler in Islamic tradition. However, it's essential to recognize that these connections are speculative and interpretive, rather than explicit references or parallels found within Christian scripture itself. The Zulqarnain narrative is primarily associated with Islamic literature, and any potential parallels with Christian tradition are subject to interpretation and debate. Zulqarnain, as depicted in Islamic tradition, is not a figure found in Christian theology or scripture. Therefore, there isn't a direct perception or interpretation of Zulqarnain within Christian theology. However, scholars and theologians might examine Zulqarnain from an academic or comparative religious perspective, seeking potential parallels or connections with figures or stories in the Christian tradition. Some scholars may draw comparisons between Zulqarnain and historical figures like Alexander the Great, who is known in Western history, and whose conquests and travels bear some similarities to the adventures attributed to Zulqarnain in Islamic literature. However, it's important to note that such comparisons are speculative and subject to interpretation, rather than being firmly established within Christian theology. Overall, Zulqarnain is primarily a figure within Islamic tradition, and any attempts to interpret or understand him from a Christian perspective would likely involve comparative analysis rather than direct theological interpretation. Thanks for watching this video. Stay connected. I will meet you in my next video. In that video I will tell you what other religions say about Zulqarnain, Gog and Magog and his Great Wall. Do like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.